I had like good. Okay, so we're gonna go over some more animals. That we're gonna touch on some of those animals we talked about last time. Last time I had like 4 or 5 sentences with each of those animals. The idea really was just for you to hear that animal, that word more and more, um, in the context of like a real everyday type situation or in a sentence. Also pick up a little bit of some of the other vocabulary as we go, doing it that way as well. Um, we will not do as many examples with the ones we already did. In fact, I only picked like one example with each of the ones we previously did, and then we'll get into some new animals and we'll do more examples with those new animals. But we'll wait. We'll give it a maybe see who else pops in, and then maybe really get rolling here. Or we could just start, and I guess we're reviewing anyway, and then that way we make sure we get through it all. Okay. I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, if folks pop in a little bit late, it'll be just stuff that we've already went over. So let me move my image thing around. So I know in the video later, if it's in the wrong spot, it'll cover up the stuff. So we talked about Nemosh last time. Nemosh, the dog. Nemosh nikmani gosen. The dog is growling at your dad. Nemosh nikmani gosen. Nemosh. Nemosh is a pretty important animal for our people. Before the Nekdosha, before the horses came, I mean, the Nemosh was really our beast of burden, if you will. He's the one that they would help carry a lot of our belongings from maybe our spring camp to our summer camp or winter camp as we moved locations, so that we didn't outdo the resources in each of those areas. So Nemosh, and even today, I mean, Nemosh is a pretty important animal. Most people, they tend to have a Nemosh or a Kajo or cat. Some people have a Nemosh and a Kajo. Some people just have one or the other. But in fact, that's something a lot of times people ask people, hey, are you a Nemosh person or a Kajo person? Are you a dog person or a cat person? So Nemosh. Kajo, cat, Kajo with the batashin o mtuk. Kajo with the batashin o mtuk. The cat is stuck in the tree. Kajo with the batashin o mtuk. Mtuk is that tree. That batashin is the verb to be stuck. Wida means he is. Kajo with the batashin o mtuk. Now you can put that would on there, or you can also just put a W, or you can even just put nothing on the verb to indicate he or she. There's some variety of what you can do with that. But batashin is that verb to be stuck, and that actually works for. It really could work for just about anything. You could be stuck. Maybe you climbed up somewhere and you couldn't get down. It doesn't even have to do with height. It could be maybe your arm got stuck in something and you can't get it out, and you're like, I'm stuck. That batashin works for that too. Suxy is a deer. Suxy. We also use that word wawashkeshi, and then again, the deer, the suxy is a pretty important animal. Whether it be suxy wias, deer meat, or however we decide to use that suxy. That suxy was a very important animal. And again, you can also call it a wawashkeshi. That wawashkeshi is talking about kind of the way it kind of bounds away and kind of flips its tail up in the air. And you can also get really specific when you talk about a deer. You can call it, a yabe, a buck, or you can call it a nijan, a doe, or a getkene, a fawn. That getkene talks about the spots that are on it. So there's different words you can use, but suxy is just kind of that generic, just general term you can use for a deer. Suxy. Bashuke is a cow. Bashuke. And if you remember last class, if you were here, I talked about that bashuke, and I said that a long time ago, the bashuke, we used to use that word for a buffalo or bison. And when the buffalo or the bison kind of got wiped out, then that bashuke, kind of that new bashuke for us became the cow, the bashuke. So nasana bashukwuk ik meowuk. Be careful, there are cows in the road. Nasana. Nasana is a good one to remember. That just means be careful. Nasana. And you can use that for whatever you want. Like if your kids are being wild outside and maybe they're being dangerous. Nizanze, nizanzuk, they're being dangerous. You can say, hey, nasana, nasana, be careful. Nasana. Or sometimes they'll say, nasana, nukshe eb mosayin. Look where you're walking. Be careful. Nasana, nukshe eb mosayin. Look where you're walking. But just nasana. That's a good one to remember. Nasana, bishukwak ik, meowak. Be careful, there are cows in the road. And if you just popped in, we're just going to briefly talk about the words, some of the animal words we did last time. And we're going to get into some new ones. So I just picked like one sentence out of the multiple sentences I had to just go over. So again, we went over namosh, 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 dog, namosh. And if you'll repeat this word where you're at, again, the more times you hear the word namosh, the more times you think about namosh, or the next time you see a namosh and you say, oh, look, nakshe on namosh, or kind of think that in your head, like, oh, namadagwin ma on namosh. I like that namosh, or however you're thinking about it. Just if you think about that word and you use that word in that way, it's really going to help lock that in your mind. Like I said, it takes sometimes 20, 30 times of using or hearing a word like namosh before it really locks in your mind. So my goal here is just for you to hear some of these words a number of times, and then again for you to repeat them. So namosh, namosh, kajo, 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 meow, kajo, suxy, 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 deer, suxy, bashukke, 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 cow. Okay. And then bagoch bashukke is how we started calling the buffalo or the bison after they kind of got wiped out. Bagoch literally means wild. So it means, in a way, almost means wild cow. Bagoch bashukke. But if you see bashukke on older treaties, it's not talking about a cow. It's talking about the buffalo or bison back then, bashukke. But bagoch bashukke is how we call a buffalo or bison today. There's another word that sometimes you'll hear people use, which is meshkode bashukke. And that means, again, it's talking about the prairie. So it's like prairie cow is kind of what it literally translates to. And then bagoch just means wild, bagoch bashukke. You could actually attach that pre-noun to a lot of different words. You could say bagoch nene, wild man, or bagoch kwe, bagoch pinoje zagach, crazy. There's wild kids outside. Bagoch. So bagoch bashukke gione, bagoch bashukke gione. The buffalo is wallowing. Bagoch bashukke gione. And that's just something that buffaloes do. They'll just kind of like roll around. And in areas where there were a lot of bagoch bashukwuk, there were a lot of buffalo in the past, like up in Kansas, you'll see like these divots or these indentions in some of the areas in the prairie where these buffaloes used to always kind of wallow around in a gione. So bagoch bashukke gione. The buffalo is wallowing. Singo, singo is a squirrel, singo. And technically it's that gray squirrel. You also have ojidimo. Ojidimo is another word that we use for squirrel, ojidimo or singo. Singo sechko onit tugman. Singo sechko onit tugman. The squirrel stores some acorns. Singo sechko onit tugman. And this is actually where this word singo comes from. It comes from that word, so describing that action of like storing up or caching like nuts and things like that for the winter time. That sechko, that's where that singo comes from. Singo sechko on it, mtugman, and mtugman are acorns. Mtugman, literally that means tree, almost like berries or seeds, but it's always been used for acorn that I'm aware of. Mtugman. And then tugmush would be like an oak tree. Tugmush, tugman. Paneshi. Paneshi is a bird. Paneshi. And this is just a general word for bird. We could probably spend 2 or 3 classes just talking about birds. There's just so many types of birds out there, and some of them are kind of regional, like you'll see gayashk, seagulls in certain areas, and then you might see mimi, you might see a pigeon, or you might see a what's that word for Canada jay? Gweenashk. And then there's ojindis, blue jays. There's just, there's so many variations of words for different birds. But then Paneshi is just your general bird. I mean, so if you're not really good at identifying birds, or maybe that's not your expertise, or you just don't know the word for a certain bird, you could say, Paneshi, Nukshale Paneshi. Look at that bird, Nukshale Paneshi. It's really beautiful. So Paneshi bird. And then if you want to say birds plural, it's Paneshik or Paneshiyuk. You can always use the yuck or the K to pluralize. So Paneshik or Paneshiyuk. Paneshi Mawani Molson. Paneshi Mawani Molson. The bird, he is eating a worm. Now, I want to point this out again. This form right here that you see this sentence is in. It's called the obviative or storytelling mode. So it's a way of talking about like him or her or them doing something to him, her, or them. What this form actually will do is it'll tell you who is acting upon who. So in this sentence, the bird is eating the worm. So Paneshi Mawani Mosen. Now, if the worm was eating the bird, maybe it was a dead bird, but it would be, Mose Mawani Paneshin. And so that ni right there in front of the word for worm, which is Mose, that lets you know that that's the one being acted on. And then the in at the end of the word for worm, which is Mose, also tells you that's the one being acted upon. So Paneshi Mawani Mosen. The bird, he is eating a worm. But all I want you to focus in on is Paneshi, Paneshi. Again, the more times you hear a word like Paneshi or Single or Bogochpashuke, the more time you hear those words, the easier they become. If you can say the word out loud to yourself, Bogochpashuke, Bogochpashuke, Single, Single, Paneshi, Paneshi, Paneshi. And there's actually several words for eagle. There's Kano, there's Magizi, there's Magejwash, there's Peshkano. But the general word, just kind of the basic word that you'll hear in Potawatomi is just Kano. 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 Kano Majenani Gigon. The eagle grabbed a fish. Kano Majenani Gigon. Majena is the verb to grab. It can also be used to arrest somebody, because when you arrest somebody, you're kind of grabbing them. You're kind of grabbing hold of them. In fact, the word that we use for a police officer, Majin Kionane, comes from that Majin, to grab. And there's even a slang word for son-in-law, I think. It's like Majin Got. It's like the one that got grabbed. The one that they got a hold of. They got the one that got grabbed is your son-in-law. It has that Majin as part of that word too. So Kano is an eagle. Kano. Majin Nani Gigon. The eagle grabbed a fish. Kano Majin Nani Gigon. And Gigo is your fish, just Gigo. And the N on the end again tells you that that's who's being acted upon. The eagle is grabbing the fish. The fish isn't grabbing the eagle. Kano Majenani Gigon. So let me make sure real quick here we don't have any questions. They're going long. I do want to point out, you're always welcome to ask questions as we're going. Don't ever think of any question as a stupid question. There is no such thing as a dumb question. I often tell people that a lot of times if you have a certain question about something, there's a good chance that probably at least one other person, if not more than one person, has the same question. So please don't hesitate to ask questions. And you can do it. You can either do it, to the group, or you can ask everybody. You can do it on the mic live, or you can just send me a message. But please don't hesitate to ask questions if you have something that comes up, or if there's just something you would like to hear a little more about. Please don't hesitate to do that either. You can also send me an email at jneely, so just J and then NEELY at Potawatomi.org. Just POTAWATOMI.org. So One more time, let's go through this little group here. Bagoch, bashuke, bagoch, bashuke. Single, single, single. Panashi, panashi, panashi. Kano, kano, kano. Okay. Kokosh, kokosh. Biojish kwegze o kokosh. The pig is muddy. Kokosh. Biojish kwegze o kokosh. The pig is muddy. Biojish kwegze o kokosh. Wabgunoji. Wabgunoji is a mouse. Wabgunoji. Wabgunoji wapshkazo. Wabgunoji wapshkazo. The mouse is white. Now, one thing about color in Potawatomi, the color depends on whether something is animate, hence living, or or inanimate, non-living. So when you're talking about like a table being white, you don't say it exactly the same way you say like a mouse is white. So wapshkazo, he or she is white. This living creature, this mouse, wapshkia, it's white. So wapshkia idopwin, that table is white. And sometimes also with colors, you can even sometimes take off parts of the word, so like the wab part or the mishkol for red, and sometimes you can attach those to nouns to make an even like kind of a shortened version of something. So you could say like wabdopwin, the white table, instead of saying like it's white, that table. Wapshkia idopwin, you can say wabdopwin. So, but these are just little things you pick up over time. I apologize. I'm just really getting and gosh, can I bag way and going really thirsty today. Wabguanoji, wabguanoji. Try to say those words at home. Wabguanoji. And I understand that some of these words, they may seem a little hard to pronounce and to kind of get your tongue around at first. I promise you, they do get easier the more times you say some of these words, and then they just roll off your tongue really fast, really easy. Sometimes you almost take it for granted. You have to just kind of slow it down a little bit. Wabguanoji, wabguanoji, wabguanoji. I know it seems like a mouthful because like in English, this is mouse. English is like one, like mouse. And here it's like wabguanoji, 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 wabguanoji. Ah, wabguanoji-ish. A danged old mouse. Wabguanoji-ish. A danged old mouse, but wabguanoji. Wabguanoji wapshkazo. Wabguanoji wapshkazo. The mouse is white. Mamakshi. Mamakshi is a donkey. Mamakshi. It's talking about his big old ears. Mamakshi. Mamakshi. Mamakshi nagi degeshkak. The donkey kicked me. Mamakshi nagi degeshkak. The donkey kicked me. The verb here is degeshwa. Degeshwa is the verb to kick someone, and the wa actually comes off in this form. Mamakshi nagi degeshkak. Degeshkak. The donkey kicked me. Mamakshi nagi degeshkak. Nekdosha is a horse. Nekdosha. And again, it's talking about that one hoof, and it's coming from that word goat. Goat means one. Goat. That's that nekdosha. That's that one hoofed one. The nekdosha. Nekdosha. And the other form that you sometimes will hear in Ojibwa, I'm trying to think of it. It comes from that same concept though. It's like Bejik is how you say one in Ojibwa. So it's like, and it has that same meaning, that one hoofed one. So nekdosha, nekdoshak, nekdoshayak, horses. Bagoch nekdoshayak, denez wikshi manise. There are wild horses on the island. Bagoch nekdoshayak, denez wikshi manise. There are wild horses on the island. So bagoch again is wild. Nekdoshayak, horses. Denez week, they're hanging around. Deneze is the verb to hang around or to be around a certain area. Deneze, Denez week, they are. Ji, there. Manise, island. And you can say Manise, or some people also say Manishe. More of a she instead of a se for island. Manise, Manishe. Bagoch nekdoshayak, Denez week, ji, Manise. One more time. Kokosh, kokosh, kokosh. Say it where you're at if you don't mind. Kokosh. Wabguanoji, Wabguanoji, Mamakshi, Mamakshi, Nekdosha, Nekdosha, and Nekdoshak or Nekdoshayak for horses. Okay. I think we're getting ready to get in. Okay, this is our last one, I think, and then we're going to have some brand new animals. Muck. Muck is a beaver. Muck. Makok. Makok or beavers. Makok. Gabengen or muck. Wigi wijiton. The beaver built the dam. Gabengen or muck. Wigi wijiton. Now, there's even an easier way to say this, but I really wanted to share that word for dam with you. Gabengen is the word for a dam. Now, I could have even just said muck gabenge. That means the beaver is building a dam, like I say. So muck gi gabenge. So the word for dam itself is actually the verb inside of there for building a dam. And what it's really literally talking about is blocking up something. So it's like closing it up, making it where it's like impassable. That's kind of what it's talking about, that gabengen. And again, if you take the in off that word for dam, that's actually the verb to build a dam, gabenge. So you could say, again, you could say mukki gabenge, the beaver built a dam. Or in this sense, I decided to use the word wujiton, which means to build or create. Or create a book, you could build a, I don't know, a table, anything you create, you could use wujiton. So gabengen or muck wigi wujiton. The beaver built the dam. Okay, so now on to some, I think, new ones. I think we stopped right here last time. Mo'oe. Mo'oe is a wolf. Mo'oe. There's another word that we sometimes use too, which is ma'ingen. Ma'ingen. Ma'ingen or mo'oe. That mo'oe is literally talking about the way that that wolf kind of cries out. Mo, just kind of cries out. Mo almost means, it just means to cry. So like if you were to tell a baby like, I gotta go mokan, don't cry. I gotta go mokan, just don't cry, baby. That mo is indicating crying, and then that mo'oe is a word for the wolf. Mo'oe. Again, there's another word that we use is ma'ingen. Ma'ingen or mo'oe. With this one, there's a little bit of a glottal stop there. Mo'oe. We don't have a lot of glottal stops in Potawatomi, but this particular one, there is a spot there where it's like mo'oe. Mo'oe wa'one. The wolf is howling. Mo'oe wa'one. Wa'one means to howl. Mo'oaki wichgiosuk. Mo'oaki wichgiosuk. Wolves, I should have said not wolves. Wolves hunt in a pack. Wolves hunt in a pack, not wolves. Mo'oaki wichgiosuk. Sometimes you proofread and you look at your Potawatomi side and you don't even notice the English is messed up. So wolves hunt in a pack. Mo'oaki wichgiosuk. That weech means they do something together. Like it's like accompanying somebody. If you say weejawe, it means literally to accompany somebody. Weejawe. And that weejawe, so that weech is the part that indicates like doing it together. And you can use that on other things. Like you could say like weech meek chui. He or she works together. They work with each other. But weejawe is like to accompany. So giose is that verb to hunt. Mo'oaki wichgiosuk. Mo'oe nshikauze. Mo'oe nshikauze. He is a lone wolf. That could be she is a lone wolf too. It's he or she. All of our verbs are he or she. Sometimes it just gets tiring just writing like he or she. So I just say he. Here it shows that he is a lone wolf. Mo'oe nshikauze. That nshikauze means he or she is alone or alone. So you could use that for yourself too. You could say, oh, Beyond Jordan, nshikauze, Jan. Come over. I'm alone. Nshikauze, just me. Nshikauze, Jan, just me. So mo'oe nshikauze. He is a lone wolf. Mo'oe nshikauze. Beshoch mtakwa kikingiwab ma o mo'oe. Beshoch takwa kik ngiwab ma o mo'oe. So I saw a wolf by the woods or close to the woods. Beshoch is near. Beshoch. Mtekwakik is the woods or the forest. Tekwakik. Nagiwabma, I did see him. Nagiwabma o mo'oe. Oh. Beshoch Mtekwakik Nagiwabma o mo'oe. Mo'owek gi nisawani bishukgayen. Wolves have been killing the cattle. Mo'owek gi nisawani bishukgayen. Wolves have been killing the cattle. So mo'oe. Mo'oe is the word I really want you to focus in on here on. Mo'oe, that word for wolf. Mo'oe. 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 Makol. Makol is how we say bear. Makol. You may have heard makwa. That's a little variation of that word. They actually come from the similar origin. I was told that the original word was like mkowabjige, which has to do with the way that a bear kind of like will shift things around and kind of turn things over. Makol or bear people have always been people that were kind of the policemen in our villages. They're also the ones a lot of times that kept a lot of that medicine knowledge sometimes because they would turn things over. And again, if they're the ones that are kind of watching over the village, those Bear Clan people, then they're going to be out in the woods. They're going to be on the perimeter of the village, kind of keeping watch. And when you're out there by yourself, kind of on the perimeter, you have a lot of time to kind of think and observe things that are going on around you and kind of watch the animals and see what they're doing. And so it makes sense that bear folks a lot of times pick up a lot of that medicinal, that mshkukki and that medicine knowledge. So Mako mbe gabe baboon. Mako mbe gabe baboon. The bear sleeps all winter. Mako mbe gabe baboon. I think this technically bears actually wake at some point during the winter, but Mako mbe gabe baboon. The bear sleeps all winter or hibernates. Mkadauze o mko. Mkadauze o mko. That bear is black. Mkadauze o mko. Now, again, you could attach this actually onto that word mko to say like a black bear. You could say mkadamko, mkadamko, black bear. But that mkadauze means he or she is black, that bear. Mkadauze o mko. And again, if you were talking about like an object, it changes. It's like if you were to say like the chair is black, Mkadewa e jeeptabwin, that chair is black. Mkadewa e jeeptabwin. Makogi Guedemonani Gigoyen. Makogi Guedemonani Gigoyen. The bear caught that fish or fishes. Makogi Guedemonani Gigoyen. That's that storytelling mode. He did it. Makokneta Mijinawani Minen. Makokneta Mijinawani Minen. Bears, they like to eat blueberries. Makok neta mijinawani minen. So makok would be bears plural. So makok bears. That neta means that somebody is skilled or that they really enjoy doing something. You can attach that to a verb to say like, hey, if you said neta wajandat, he or she really likes to cook, neta, or they're really skilled at it. It kind of has both those means. It can kind of mean that you're skilled at something, but that you really like to do it. Neta. And then mijin is the verb to eat something inanimate. Mijin. And blueberries are inanimate. Minen. So mijin nawa would be they eat it, but they're eating them, so it's mijin nawan. Ni minen. The bears, they eat those blueberries. So they really enjoy them. Neta mijin nawani minen makok. Nasana manak makok beshot shoda. Nasana manak makok beshot shoda. Obviously, I like that word nasana. Be careful. Nasana manak, a lot of something animate. A lot of makok, bears. Beshot, close. Shoda, here. So there's a lot of, be careful. There are a lot of bears close to here. Nasana manak makok beshot shoda. Nasana manak makok beshot shoda. Wabozo. Wabozo is a rabbit. Wabozo. Nishwabozok nagi tisonak. Nishwabozok nagi tisonak. I trapped 2 rabbits. Nishwabozok nagi tisonak. I trapped 2 rabbits. Wabozo mijin e zao Jesus. Wabozo mijin e zao Jesus. The rabbit is eating the carrot, or eating a carrot. So wabozo, rabbit, mijin, he's eating it, e, that, zao Jesus, carrot. Zao Jesus is how we say carrot. It's literally talking, that zao is interesting. It's kind of like, it kind of can, it has a couple of meanings. It can, a lot of times we use it for like yellow, but it can almost mean like brown in some context. And if you look at the older way the words were, a lot of times certain colors were like double, like yellow or brown, or blue or green. And then later on, we kind of came up with other ways to specifically talk about some of these colors. But you have certain baseline colors, if you will, and that's what was zao. And that geese has to do with it kind of being like a root. So it's talking about how it's under the ground, how it's this root thing. And then if you say Jesus by itself, it actually means ginseng in Bodwami, ginseng. It sounds like, because it's an I, so it's G, Jesus. Jesus is ginseng. Zao Jesus is a carrot. So wabozo mijin e zao Jesus. The rabbit is eating the carrot. Wabozo wias nigabaton. I'm cooking rabbit meat. Wabozo wias nigabaton. Now, anytime that you're talking about eating a particular animal, whether you're talking about deer, whether you're talking about cow, whether you're talking about whatever, muskrat, anything that you choose to eat, you want to put that wios on there, because that wios indicates it's a meat. If you don't put the wios on there, it's almost like you're grabbing hold of a live animal, like a live rabbit, just grabbing. I mean, unless you're eating the animal like whole or alive, I mean, I'm not judging, whatever you choose to do, but that's what it's, if you don't put that wios with it, that's kind of like what you're indicating. You're like, so like if you said I'm eating like hamburger, or I'm eating and you were like bashuke, and then you said I'm eating it, it's almost like you're grabbing hold of that cow and just taking a chunk out of it. But you got to put that wios with it to indicate it's a meat. And basically, a lot of times when an animal is killed, when it's first killed, it's still considered animate. It still has that spirit kind of around it, that spirit nearby it. And that's why, when you kill an animal, you just like when you take a plant from nature, you want to put down some sema, put down some tobacco, and you thank that animal for giving its life so that you can live, so that you can have that manopmazo and that good life. And now once you start chopping that animal up, it's like the way a lot of times we describe some of these meats is like, it's like the hind quarter, it's the rump, it's maybe the back strap, and as you're cutting this animal up, now it's wios. It's no longer kind of this in its original form anymore. So anyway, but wios, wabozo wios nigabaton. I'm cooking rabbit meat. Wabozo nagi min nagnani agamak. Wabozo nagi min nagnani agamak. The rabbit gave us snowshoes. Wabozo nagi min nagnani agamak. The rabbit gave us snowshoes. So there's a story about that. It's a winter story, so I'll have to save that one for another time. But that min nagnan he gave us, and then agamuk are snowshoes. Agam is one snowshoe, agamuk are snowshoes, and snowshoes are animate. And that's one of those things where some objects are a little harder. You just have to kind of know that they're treated as animate or inanimate. So some you just have to memorize that way. Other things are a little bit easier. Obviously, if something is living, like you're talking about a person or a tree or something like that, it's easier to be like, oh, that's animate. Or if it's something spiritual, like a pawag and a pipe or sema, tobacco, it's easier to understand that thing being animate. But occasionally, particularly with foods, a lot of times are hard. But this one you might not off the top of your head know is animate. You might think, oh, it's a snowshoe, agam. It's probably inanimate, but it's actually animate, agamuk. Wabozo jinkade blanket, or excuse me, waboyan jinkade blanket Jash waboyanen gi jitonawani wabo zaoyanen. So waboyan is how we say a blanket. Wabozo is a rabbit. Waboyan is a blanket. Waboyan jinkade e blanket. Because Jash waboyanen gi jitonawani wabozaoyanen. So excuse me, wabozaoyanen is rabbit hides. Okay, waboyan is a blanket. Wabozo is a rabbit. So we used to make a lot of blankets out of rabbit. The fur is really warm, but it takes a lot of wabozoyak to create a blanket. So there'd be a number of rabbits you'd have to kill to do that. But if you're eating them regularly, it wouldn't be that big a deal. There's still some communities you find that will make rabbit blankets occasionally. I know in some Cree communities, I know there's still quite an avid folks that will make rabbit blankets. Perhaps in your own community or a nearby community, there's folks that still make those rabbit blankets. But yeah, so waboyan is a blanket, wabozo is a rabbit. And that's why our word for blanket is so close, because we used to make a lot of blankets out of rabbit, waboyan. So a lot of times there's this kind of underlying knowledge that's kind of inside of some of these words that if you start to look at it enough, you'll start to see it and recognize some of that stuff. So I think that's fascinating in my opinion. So try to share that with you. Okay. Shugok. Shugok is a skunk. Shugok. Shugok nibwe mishkosen. Shugok nibwe mishkosen. The skunk is standing in the grass. Shugok nibwe mishkosen. So shugok is your skunk. Nibwe means to stand. Mishkosen is in the grass, or grass, plural. Mishkos would be like a blade of grass. Mishkosen, grass, plural. There's few words for stand too, and there's a few words for rise as well. And that's something that can make things kind of complicated, especially when somebody asks you like, hey, how do you translate this particular thing? A lot of times I'll have to ask them exactly what they mean, because a lot of times in English, we're very vague. So like we might be saying like stand in place versus stand up, rise versus, and in the language, sometimes you have to be very specific, Nibwe or Nibo, kind of just kind of stand there, Nibwe, Nibo, Bezugwi, rising up, Bezugwi. And then another one you sometimes hear is Gabo or Gabwe, also for stand. So there's a few different variations on how to say stand, but Shugok nibwe mishkosen. Shugok. Shugok is the word I really want you to focus in on. Shugok, skunk. Shugok basmiagwaze. Shugok basmiagwaze. The skunk stinks. Basmiagwaze. So, this is a word that I use quite a bit in my house. We kind of mess around with people, just joking with them, basmiag die. Woo. Got a stinky butt, basmiag die. If somebody maybe they bogated or they measied and they didn't shut the door or something, basmiag die. Woo. And you can add that basmiag part to different words. Like if you were saying somebody had like stinky feet, you could say like basmiag zade. Ooh, stinky feet, basmiag zade. Yeah. Bitkaznen, basmiag zade. Put your shoes back on. Or Bitkaznen neha basmiag zade. Put your shoes back on. You got stinky feet. Basmiag zade. So basmiag waze, he or she smells or stinks. So shugok basmiag waze. Sadly, that poor guy, that poor skunk gets that kind of I guess reputation, if you will. I know when I think of a skunk, I always think of that smell, that really distinct smell. Obviously, it's a trait that they use to protect themselves, but still. Basmiag. So shugok basmiag waze. Shugok bamupto namigwani deschigadik. Shugok bamupto namigwan deschigadik. The skunk ran under the deck. Shugok, the skunk, bamupto, he's running. Namigwan, underneath e deschigadik. Deschigadik is the deck or the porch. Literally kind of some of that flat surface area that Shugok bamupto namigwan e deschigadik. And that iguan indicates like in a certain direction, a certain way. And nam indicates under. So like you said, like nam gamuk would be like under the earth. Or that could even be used for like a storm cellar or something. Shigak bamupto nam iguani deschigadik. Shigak bamupto nam iguani deschigadik. Shigak nagi wab ma iba tazo gamuk. Shigak nagi wab ma iba tazo gamuk. So tazo by itself means to like you'll hear tazo used for like if you say tazwin, it can be like a cabinet or even a closet. That verb though, tazo, indicates like putting something up or putting something away. So it can be used for like a shed, maybe a place that you store your tools. I've even heard it used one time for a pawn shop. Like because in a pawn shop, you put stuff up too. Hopefully you come back and get it, but you definitely kind of put stuff up or store stuff away. So tazao gamuk. So shagak nagi wab ma iba tazao gamuk. And a lot of times our words, they really are contextual. They make perfect sense in that moment, like when you're talking about it. Like if you're outside and the skunk's running by, it's obviously you're not talking about the pawn shop. You're not talking about your closet. You're not talking about a cabinet. So that makes sense in that way. And again, for cabinet, a lot of times we'll just say tazwin, or for closet, tazwin, tazao gamuk, that shed or that pawn shop. Shagak nagi wab ma iba tazao gamuk. I saw a skunk by the shed. Wakshe. And the word that you may be more familiar with may be wagush. But with Padami, we say wakshe. I do know that word though also. Wakshe bamupto. The fox is running. Wakshe bamupto. Wakshe guasksao I wakagen. Wakshe guasksao I wakagen. The fox jumped the fence. Wakshe would da I wangoen. Wakshe would da I wangoen. The fox lives in a hole or den. One goin is a hole or a den. One goin. And that guasksao means he jumps. E wakagen is that fence. Wakagen. Wakshe bamupto. The fox is running. Wakshe bamupto. Wakshe guasksao I wakagen. And then wakshe wudeda I one goin. Fox lives in a hole. Wakshe wudeda I one goin. Wakshe mbwakauze. The fox is smart or crafty. Wakshe mbwakauze. Mbwakawen. That word we use for that, one of those 7 grandfathers, that mbwaka. Sometimes you'll see it like that, just mbwaka versus mbwakauze. He or she is smart. And you can use this for anybody. You could use this for maybe you have a kid or a friend that you think's real smart, Oh, Nam. And if you say you're smart, it would be Gmabwakawus. It kind of flips at the end. Instead of Mbwakauze, he or she is smart, that ZE at the end kind of flips. It becomes an ES, and you put the G at the front. So you say Gmabwakawus, you're smart. Gmabwakawus. Or a short way to do it is you can even just drop and just say Gmbwaka and drop off the Z, and it's still understood that way. It's a little more slangy, but it's still understandable. Gmbwaka, you're smart. So smart or crafty. Let me look up here, make sure I'm not missing any questions. Okay. We're doing okay. No questions. Okay. Aspen. That raccoon, that aspen. Nukshe aspen jipteba. Nukshe aspen jipteba. Look, there's a raccoon sitting over there. Nukshe aspen jipteba. Aspen mijini abesi. Aspen mijini abesi. Abesi is a clam, or it can be an oyster. It can actually be almost anything that's shelled in a sense. Abesi. Aspen mijini abesi. Abesi. Aspen would a gazebi ninjan. Aspen would a gazebi ninjan. The raccoon is washing his hands. I'm sorry, I left out hands on there, but that gazebi ninjan, he's washing his hands. Aspen woulda gazebi ninjin. He's washing his hands. Aspen bijiguani wigdo cook yet. Aspen bijiguani wigdo cook yet. The raccoon is inside the trash can. Aspen bijiguani wigdo cook yet. The raccoon is inside the trash can. Bijiguan means inside of, or you can say biduk, another way to say inside. Wigdo cook is a trash can. Yet means he or she is in it. So Aspen bijiguan wigdo cook yet. Aspen shquexadoni wigdoyan nukmukshana. Aspen shquexadoni wigdoyan nukmukshana. The raccoon spread the trash all over. Or sometimes maybe it's your namosh. Namosh shquexadoni wigdoyan nukmukshana. My dog has done that before, got in my trash and just spread it everywhere. Namosh shquexadoni wigdoyan nukmukshana. Or Aspen shquexadoni wigdoyan nukmukshana. So Aspen, and shwexadon, that's to spread it out. Shwexadon, wigdoyan is just trash. Wigdoyan. Nukmuk means kind of like here, there, everywhere, nukmuk. And that shana just kind of adds emphasis. Aspen, shwexadon wigdoyan nukmuk shana. Aspen, shwexadon wigdoyan nukmuk shana. Again, aspen is the word I really want you to be recognizing and hearing. Aspen. Aspen. Ioni. Ioni is a possum. Ioni. Ioni mbokazo. The possum is plain dead. Ioni mbokazo. And this is actually a true thing. I mean, if a raccoon or if a aspen gets scared, they will. They'll kind of curl up and play dead and just kind of, and a lot of times prey will leave them alone in that regard. It comes in not so handy when they drop down in front of cars, though. That can be their demise. So if they play dead and they see a car coming, the lights, and they get hit. So Ioni mbokazo. Mbokazo means to play dead. That word mbo means to die. That kazo at the end indicates you're playing or acting a certain way. You can even use that on different words, like you say migadi kazo, he's play fighting, or bekazo, he's pretending to be asleep. Bekazo. And be and bo are very close, as you can hear, like bo being death, be being sleep. And if you think about that, I mean, obviously there's some similarities in sleeping and passing, if you will. You're both kind of in a somewhat similar state. Obviously, one you can doki, you can wake up from, but Ioni mbokazo, the possum is plain dead. Ioni mbokazo. Ioni debukadze, the possum is nocturnal. Ioni debukadze. You're probably thinking to yourself, how do we have a word for nocturnal? And it's funny because a lot of times people, they'll ask different words and they don't realize that our language is very, very descriptive. And a lot of times, we can describe things oftentimes even more in depth than you would in English. So debuk indicates night. That odze, that odd has to do with life. And then ze is kind of like a state of being. So for example, bamadze, which means life, that beme means you're kind of going along. Beme, odd, you're going along, living, ze, in a state of being. So a lot of times state of being words will end in ze. So like nishkadze, he's mad, and tagze, he or she is sad. Kionadze, he or she is crazy. A lot of times they'll end in that ze, but debukadze is he is living in a state of nighttime. So he's nocturnal. Debukadze. Ioni jetki gojin, sorry. Ioni jetki gojin. The possum is hanging upside down. Ioni jetki gojin. Now gojin by itself just means he or she is hanging. That jet key on there indicates upside down. So Ioni jet key gojin. The possum is hanging upside down. Ioni jet key gojin. Nidinendum Ioni ginsani bidian. I think a possum killed the chicken. Nidinindum, I think. Ioni. Gi nisani bdn. I think a possum killed the chicken or chickens. That's that objunctive mode. Nidinindum ioni ginsani bdn. Ioni gimboji miawak. Ioni gimboji miawak. There is a possum dead in the road. Ioni, possum. Gimbo, he died. Ji, there. Meow means road. Miawak, in the road or by the road. Ioni gimboji miawak. There's a possum dead in the road. Ioni, ioni. So aspen, aspen, aspen. Raccoon, aspen. Ioni, ioni, ioni. Possum, ioni. And again, I really just want you to get that base word. The rest is just kind of extra stuff in there that you can pick up as you're going. But I really want you just to be hearing that aspen, aspen, aspen a bunch of times and hearing ioni, ioni, ioni a bunch of times. Jajak. Jajak is a crane. Jajak. I don't know. I missed my spelling up here. Jajak. Jajak nibwe jigbus. The crane is standing by the store. The store, the shore. Oh, I'm losing it. Let me get a drink here. He's not standing by the store, he's standing by the shore. Jijak nibwe jigbus. The crane is standing by the shore, or actually technically by the lake in this sense. Jigbus. Bus is how we say a lake in Potawatomi. Bus. We have several words for water, like gami indicates like Gitchagami, we use it for the ocean or a large body of water. We say bus for a lake. Zibe is a river. And if you just say Jigbiak, it's by the water. Jigbiak. I think that's what I was going for here. But I put by the lake. So Jijak Nibwe Jigbus. Jijak Guedemochke. The crane is fishing. Jijak Guedemochke. Jijak Baswe. The crane echoes. Jijak Baswe. And actually, Bosway is a word, sometimes it's used even as a kind of a synonym, kind of a way of describing that crane, the way that when that crane kind of hollers out, it makes that real echoing type sound that you can hear way off in the distance. And that's one reason that that crane is seen as that leadership clan. It's that one that kind of, when they make a sound, boy, they can be heard. They're real vocal, if you will. Jajak Bosway. Jajak Gi Bamisuk. Wechnow Quek. Jajakoki Bamisuk Wechnow Quek. The cranes flew south. Jajakoki Bamisuk Wechnow Quek. The cranes flew south. Shishibe, duck, or shishibuk, ducks plural. Shishibe. And shishib is actually talking about the stretching of it's like kind of like they're stretching, they're stretched out, I guess. Shishibe. That duck, Shishibe. Shishibe Bamataga, the duck is swimming. Shishibe Bamataga, the duck is swimming. Shishibe Goki. Shishibe Goki, the duck dives. Shishibe Goki. Goki means to dive, so like dive down, Goki. And then Moki means to kind of like emerge, to kind of come out, or Mokse is another way to say it, like something emerges, but Goki is to dive. Shishibeyak bamisuk. Shishibeyak bamisuk. The ducks are flying away. So again, you can say Shishibeyak, or you can just say Shishibuk for ducks, plural. Shishibeyak or Shishibuk. Bamisuk are flying. Namoshgi b'manashkawani shishibin. The dog chased the duck or ducks. Namoshgi b'manashkawani shishibin. Namoshgi b'manashkawani shishibin. So again, on this one, jajak, 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 a crane, jajak. Shishibe, 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 a duck. Mukchako. Mukchako. Now, this is just our general word for frog. We have some words for like tree frog. There's a word for like toad, like maki. You can talk like about a tadpole. It's a little bit different word. This is our general word for a frog. Mukchako. Mukchako. Mijenani ojeyen. The frog caught the fly. Makchako mjenani ojeyen. Makchako jiptebe beshoch bus. Makchako jiptebe beshoch bus. The frog is sitting close to the lake. Makchako jiptebe beshoch bus. Makchako guaskso eko zagzit. Makchako guaskso eko zagzit. The frog jumped since he was scared. Makchako guaskso eko zagzit. Makchako skebgazo. Makchako skebgazo. The frog is green. Makchako skebgazo. And you could use that for anything. You could say the snake is green, or the tree is green, something that's alive, that's skebgazo. Beedi is chicken. Beedi, we have two words we use. Sometimes we'll also say ba'akwa. Ba'akwa or beedi for chicken. Beedi or ba'akwa. Ba'akwa, it's kind of a little bit of a pause there. Ba'akwa. Ba'akwa or beedi for chicken. Gagishamaknagi beediyak. Did you feed the chickens? Gagishamaknagi beediyak. Beedi webiwe. The chicken ran away. Beedi webiwe. Beedi deneze getagaugamuk. The chicken hangs around the farm. Beedi deneze getagaugamuk. Beedi dewe peneshi Yahweh. The chicken is a type of bird. Beedi dewe peneshi Yahweh. Dewe means a type. Peneshi, again, we had that earlier, is bird. Yahweh, he or she is something. So Beedi dewe peneshi Yahweh. But again, beedi is the word I want you to focus on. Beedi or ba'akwa and makchako. 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 Say that word where you're at. Makchako. That'll help you. Gigo. Gigo is a fish. Gigo. It's a general word for fish. Obviously, just like birds, there's a ton of different, there's bass, there's perch, there's bluegill, there's crappie, there's all kinds of fish, but gigo is just your general fish. Gigo. Weknesia gigo yuk. Etoyin. What fish do you have? This is some fish that are like after they've been killed and they're kind of in like a butcher's place or something, or like in a market. Weknesia gigo yuk etoyin. Gigo nui gabashma. I'm going to cook fish. Now, fish is one of those exceptions to that wias rule. You don't have to put the wias on fish when you're talking about. You're talking about eating them. But they are treated as animate. So when you're saying I'm going to cook them, you're saying I'm cooking something animate. So gigo nui gabashma. I'm going to cook fish. Gigo nui gabashma. Gigo benakwizewe. The fish is swimming along. Gigo benakwizewe. Benakwizewe. The fish is swimming along. Now this is a little different word than bamataga or bagizo, which means to swim. This is actually only used in reference to fish. That bamukwizewe. Bamukwizewe is talking really about a fish kind of swimming by. Bamukwizewe. So it's kind of it's more like almost like maybe swimming like in this manner. I usually only heard it used with fish. I mean, I suppose maybe it could work also for like an eel or something like that, maybe. But gigo zagkwejewe. Gigo zagkwejewe. The fish is swimming into view. Gigo zagkwejewe. The fish is swimming into view. Maybe this would work if like you're throwing like breadcrumbs out, or if you got like a torch out and you're trying to attract those fish to make them come up to the surface, like at night, if you're doing some night fishing with a torch, like we used to do very traditionally, then you see them kind of coming up to you. Gigo zagkwejewe. Gigo yuk nui kakashke wak wabuk. I'm going to scale those fish tomorrow. Gigo yuk nui kakashke wak wabuk. I'm going to scale those fish tomorrow. Again, gigo, that's the word I want you to focus on, gigo. Wasi is a catfish, wasi. Nedesakne wasik bidik zasko kwan. Could you put the catfish in the frying pan? And this is actually catfish plural. In English, we just say catfish. It's a catfish. Nidisakne wasik bidik zasko kwan. Zasko kwan is a frying pan. That kwan is indicating that shape that's kind of like this. In fact, a hat is a wheel kwan. And if you look at a hat, it also has that kind of that inside of it, that shape, kind of like this. That's the kwan. M kwan is a spoon. Again, it has that kind of shape that's like that, M kwan. And zasko kwan also has that shape to it. That frying pan. Zask indicates frying. So gadasakne wasik bidik zasko kwan. Could you put the catfish in the frying pan? Niao wasik nagi gwedmonak. I caught 4 catfish. Niao wasik nagi gwedmonak. I caught 4 catfish. Wasik denezweek nambiek. Wasik denezweek nambiek. The catfish hang around at the bottom of the river. Wasik denezweek nambiek. Wasi namadagwin ma. I like catfish. Wasi namadagwin ma. Amo. Amo is a bee. Amo jiptebe waskondado. The bee is sitting on that flower. Amo jiptebe waskondado. Amok bamisak nukmukshana makanawani waskondadoyin. Bees fly around here and there looking for flowers. Amok bisak nukmukshana makanawani waskondadoyin. Skana amonagi patekak. Skana amonagi patekak. Geez, the bee stung me. Skana amonagi patekak. Bonikan I amojisan mizanet. Leave the beehive alone. It's dangerous. Bonikan, leave it alone. I amojisan, that beehive. Nizanet, it's dangerous. Guaquade is a grasshopper. Guaquade. Guaquade mijin I datbuk. The grasshopper is eating that leaf. Guaquade mijin I datbuk. Paneshimawani guaquaden. The bird is eating the grasshopper. Paneshimawani guaquaden. Guaquade kietnamgi kitchiguaskso. That grasshopper, he really jumped high. Guaquade kietnamgi kitchiguaso. Chonwabmasi o guaquade. Guaquade. I can't see the grasshopper. Chonwabmasi o guaquade. Chonwabmasi o guaquade. Again, amo is that word for bee. Guaquade, that guaquade is that grasshopper. Skame. Skame is a mosquito. Skame. Jash skameyak ik shoda. There are a lot of mosquitoes here. Jash skameyak ik shoda. Skameyak najigen mak. I hate mosquitoes. Skameyak najigen mak. I hate mosquitoes. Shkameyak denezweek beshoch bikiwuk. Mosquitoes hang around wet areas. Shkameyak denezweek beshoch bikiwuk. So shkame. And every time I say shkame, I just want to go like that. Shkame, it's like, shkame. And then shkameash, that dang mosquito. Shkameash. Shkame. SPK is a spider. SPK Mjenani Ojin. The spider caught a fly. SPK Mjenani Ojin. Gago shag squaw can o SPK. Don't squash the spider. Gago shag squaw can o SPK. Don't squash the spider. Gago shag squaw can o SPK. SPK Nizanze. That spider is dangerous. SPK Nizanze. That word SPK, it comes from like sup. Sup means like a rope or a thread. That K means to make it. So it's actually talking about what that spider actually does, how he makes that thread. That's what that SPK is literally talking about. I think I got one more or two more. Let me see. Oh, two more. Okay. Ejgak is a tick. Ejgakok gadab maki gestugwan. You should check your head for ticks. Ejgakok gadab maki gestugwan. Jash ejgakok shoda ik mtukwaki. Jash ejgakok shoda ik mtukwaki. Ejgaki gestugwan. There's a tick on your head. Ejgaki gestugwan. OJ is a fly. And I always think of like a glass of orange juice with fly in it, like OJ. OJ, I mean, that's what you call orange juice sometimes. OJ. OJ is a fly. OJ batashen I nagwagan. The fly is stuck in the spider web or the trap. OJ batashen I nagwagan. Kogak OJ shook. Get away, dang flies. Kogak OJ shook. OJ jeeptebei get gadek. The fly is sitting on the plant. OJ jeeptebei get gadek. OJ. So ejgak tick, OJ fly. And I think this is our last one here. Gunnabuk. Gunnabuk is a snake. Gunnabuk. Nasana Gunnabuk. Gunnabuk e mishkosen. Be careful of a snake in the grass. Nasana Gunnabuk or Gunnabich, maybe. Gunnabuk e mishkosen. Maybe there's a snake in that grass. Nasana Gunnabuk e mishkosen. Mshike is our general word for turtle. Again, there's a word for a red-breasted turtle. There's a word for a snapping. But it's our general word for a turtle. Mshike. Mshike bedose. The turtle is walking slow. Mshike bedose. Mshike basteke. The turtle is sunbathing. Mshike basteke. And so that's all of our animals for today. Again, I wanted to just do them in sentences so it makes them a little more realistic. And I mean, makes it really lock in your head because you're hearing that word a bunch. If I say it over and over and over again, hopefully you're repeating with me. We could talk about animals for a very long time and we really wouldn't get bored because there's a lot of deeper meaning inside of those animal terms, like what they literally mean and stuff like that. That is pretty cool, I think. I think there's a lot of that deeper knowledge inside of our language. So I hope you enjoyed talking about some of these animals today. We may talk about some more animals next time. Like I said, there's lots of animals, lots of birds. We might get into a few more types of birds. And we'll try to get this this online at some point. We'll get the video and get it online where you can watch it again in case you want to see it again another time. So, Big Wetch Jack, yo.